Welcome back. My next guest is Jeff Domanski from the Jewel Community Program. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me back.
So, Jeff, we're working with the community choice aggregation through the Jewel Community Partners and that team. Maybe you could just describe the group, because I know it's really an amalgamation of a number of individuals and programs that have come together. And we're really excited about it because it's bringing community choice aggregation right here to Clarkstown, and it's going to help save our residents money, and it's going to be really great for the environment. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the program and about Jewel and your relationship.
Yes, thanks. That's great, because it is a partnership, and that's the power of the program, is that it's a number of partners that have come together to bring this opportunity to the residents, all the members of these communities that are part of the partnership. And so Clarkstown is one of 6 communities here in Rockland County that have joined together in this partnership. So it's Clarkstown with Orangetown, the Nyack, Upper Nyack, South Nyack, and the village of Haverstraw. And all of those communities chose Jewel Community to be the administrator for the Community Choice Aggregation Program, which also, with Jewel's focus on bringing the benefits of renewables, that brings benefit to the community members, there's a focus on community solar as well. And my organization is the local program manager. So I'm a partner with Jewel Community to be the team within the community throughout the life of this program, which now we know will be at least a 2-year program based on the contract that the supplier has provided for the Community Choice Aggregation Program. So I'm really excited that me and my team will be here to answer questions, to make sure people have an understanding and comfort with what we're doing for the communities.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about community choice aggregation. What exactly it is, and our residents have been educated on this, recently. As we start to roll out the program, they're going to have more information. But just briefly, if you could describe the community choice aggregation program.
Yeah, absolutely. Community choice aggregation, or we commonly call it CCA. We try not to use acronyms, but it's so common these days. We call it CCA. It's a group buying club that's enabled by the partner communities. So every partner community had to pass a local law to let it happen. And in essence, that allowed it to go forward where they could make a decision for electricity supply that is available to every member of the community. Whether they're having the Orange and Rockland company make their supply decision for them currently, or whether they're in a contract, everyone can join this program. It goes forward as an opt-out program, meaning that all those folks for whom Orange and Rockland is making their supply decision, they will be automatically included. And that's one of the reasons we're doing so much effort to do outreach and to have my team here to answer questions. But it is that. It's a power of numbers, like a buying club, like Costco, like BJ's Wholesale, where through the power of all these numbers, we've got, and we now know it worked, a very great low fixed rate for renewable electricity from New York State sources that people will be able to take advantage of, which will stabilize their bills and be able to give them that win-win scenario of only paying for renewables, which people expect to pay more for, but the rate we got is less than the benchmark than they were paying for non-renewables from Orange and Rockland. So it's really a win-win.
Right. So just to offer some additional information for our residents so they understand. So when you look at your gas and your electric bill, so your electric bill, there's a supplier and a delivery component.
Right.
And so Orange and Rockland is the deliverer. They have the system charges for that. But there's a supply component, and with deregulation that's happened throughout the years, you have energy supply companies, ESCOs.
That's right.
Typically, that become the energy supplier, and very oftentimes they're lower than the utility that is supplying the electricity. And so, some folks have gone out. Not a lot of folks, typically. I think maybe you guys had shared the numbers. It's about 30% or less that have actually gone out, depending on the area, and have actually spent the time to go shop and get an ESCO to deliver, to not just deliver, but to be the supplier, importantly. Most people, the majority of people have Orange and Rockland and may not even be aware that they can actually save money on their utility costs in terms of, the supplier. And so that's where Jewel comes in, this unique partnership, because that was put together that you've joined, Jeff, and that we've partnered with. And this is something we've worked on for well over a year.
Right.
And we've just agreed on the contract, the 6 municipalities, and really excited about it. So what will now happen is that we have an outside company, and now instead of the default being Orange and Rockland, for anybody that hasn't selected, in the town of Clarkstown, in the town of Orangetown, in the 4 villages that are partnering with us, Upper Nyack, South Nyack, and Nyack proper, as well as the village of Havistraw, the default will now become the new company that we've selected. It's going to reduce people's electric costs, by a good bit. So people are going to save. They may not even realize why they're saving. They're going to be paying less for electricity. And what's nice about it is that there's a couple of different options, but it's really clean power, so it's environmentally friendly. So we're doing something good for the environment, and we're saving people money.
That's right. And it doesn't replace the utility company. That's the important thing that a lot of people don't understand. Like you said perfectly, Orange and Rockland, since deregulation went into effect in the late 1990s, the utility companies in New York State, like Orange and Rockland, are only allowed to make money on delivering power. The supply decision is just a pass-through cost for them, and they'll make that decision for customers if they don't make another choice. And their rate will vary. So this program, just like you said, we've been able to obtain fixed rates at a great rate for 100% renewable from New York State, and that is the default choice for 5 of the communities. And it's just going to be a wonderful win and a great opportunity. It's a real public benefit for the members of these communities.
Do you have any? Do you have any like facts and figures on this for a typical family of 4? What do we think the savings might actually be? With the switch over now, how much do you think the person would save under the green power?
Well, it's apples and oranges and an orange and oranges situation here. So when we're talking about the supply decision that the utility makes for customers, in the past, they don't emphasize renewable power. They have a requirement to have some renewable in their mix, but it's not much more than 20% when we looked at the rate that's in there in their package. So they're obtaining a mix of some very small amount of renewables and fossil and some nuclear. And that rate was about 7, when we looked at the benchmark average that we told the suppliers that wanted to be part of our partnership, we told them they had to be, it was about 7.1 cent per kilowatt hour. And that's for non-renewables. The program came in with a rate that was just underneath that, which is great because folks have been paying attention to rates over the last couple of years, know that there's been some dips in the energy marketplace, not least because of what happened with the COVID pandemic, turning the economy upside down. So wonderfully, that benchmark that we had to beat built in that dip in the market, or those 2 dips actually. There was one last fall too. So what we've obtained with this program is a rate for 100% renewables that is below that benchmark. So if the future, the next 2 years of this program are similar to what the past benchmark has indicated, people will get probably for just, it's not going to be a huge amount of savings. It could be somewhere between $10 to $20 per year if this works out, but for renewable electricity, which if they went out by themselves to one of those energy supply companies, they would pay a great deal more.
Right.
They'd probably be paying 9, 10, I've heard people paying as much as 12 cents per kilowatt hour for private. So we're very significantly below that.
Which is great. And so there'll be some savings. There's an option also for a less green as well, correct?
There is, yeah.
And so people could, if the default in Clarkstown will be the green option, but people could also pick another option that Jewel has secured through the bidding, which could save them a little bit more money if they wanted to as well, correct?
Yeah, that emphasizes the second word in the name of that program. It's community choice aggregation, and there are choices. First choice, do you want to stay in the program?
Right.
And if you don't, you can leave at any time. No penalties, no fees, anything. You can just leave. If you stay in the program, just like you said, there's 2 rate packages, the 100% renewables from New York State and the standard mix, which is a little less expensive, which mirrors the fuel mix that the utility obtains on a month-to-month basis.
Right. So either way, people are going to save money, but more importantly, we're really providing a green option. And the green power in New York, it's a lot of it's hydropower, some of it's solar. I know we were talking off camera before just about our solar project here in the town, which I'm very proud of, that we engaged in. When I was a councilman, I had proposed the idea, and it took about 4 years to come to fruition. It's been up and running for about 6 years now. and it was the first solar field in all of New York State on a closed and capped landfill. I remember actually thinking about the idea, and at the time, Bloomberg was the mayor in New York City, and he was talking about Great Kills and Fresh Kills and different landfills and what his plans were, and they never came to fruition.
Right.
And somehow we beat Mike Bloomberg in New York City to the punch, and we were able to get it done up here. But I know you wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that, about the community aspect of solar. Maybe you could speak to that.
Right. So with the community choice aggregation program that we've been talking about mostly, that is on people's Orange and Rockland bill. It's a rate change, and that they'll pay that rate for how much electricity they use. And it is New York State sourced, and it means that they are supporting and taking the environmental benefit of paying only for renewables from New York State. But there is this parallel additional opportunity that people can choose to take advantage of. And Clarkstown's been wonderful in doing outreach about this opportunity called Community Solar. And it's a program where you've sent letters out to people saying that we're raising funds for COVID relief, where there's a way to build up funds to support organizations doing that. But it's a great program for those folks who decide to take advantage of it, where they subscribe to a field of solar panels that looks just like the Clarkstown project, which was an amazing achievement in the state when it happened. But that project, when it happened, was a different type of project, where it was a beautiful symbiotic relationship between Clarkstown and the developer and the utility company, who was pretty much the only buyer of the electricity from that field of solar. Community solar is different. It's very advantageous for the developer in terms of the support that they get to do a project like this. But the reason it's happening is that the state wants to do more of this win-win opportunity for the residents of New York State. The idea is that, again, counter to what people have expected, you can actually you can support more renewables coming on the grid, and in the case of community solar, save money while you're doing it. And so the way it's structured is if you subscribe to a project that has to be in Orange and Rockland territory, that's the way community solar works. So you're supporting local renewables development, putting more renewables on the grid, and solar in this case. You become a virtual subscriber with no upfront costs. And you are, in return, the recipient of a targeted 10% savings off of your entire electricity bill, the delivery and supply charges. So the reason it works is, again, it's a partnership model. The developer has a bigger hurdle in front of them versus what happened with Clarkstown, which was no small feat. But in this case, they have to get a subscriber, a virtual owner of every solar panel in a field of solar, which is not an easy thing to do. But when they do so, they receive a bigger financial reward for doing so. And what they do is they share that reward with every subscriber, which results in that relatively simple, just monetary credit that goes on a subscriber's utility bill after the delivery and supply charges. So it's just a savings. And it does guarantee savings for those folks who do it, while they are enabling a project delivering more renewables into the grid. So it's just really, people wonder about how these projects happen, and these things sound too good to be true. They're not easy. And it took a team of partners to do it, to make it happen, including the great things that the state does, including the facilitation by Orange and Rockland. We couldn't do it without their power lines and their utility bills. But all of these partners working together delivers these opportunities for the residents of Clarkstown and the other communities that are part of this partnership.
Which is really great. And in the end, what it really does is it's something that's really great for the environment, but just as importantly, people are saving some dollars as well, which is helpful. It's going to also hopefully build in some more resiliency into the grid, and particularly as we start to now work with battery backup and battery storage, and hopefully even further advances that are coming along that line.
Absolutely.
From a policy perspective, it's really kind of advancing what's happening on the local level, across the state. And it's solar, it's wind, it's hydro, primarily are the sources that we're getting here in New York. Well, Jeff, we're just about out of time, so what I'd like to do is if you could just offer any contact information, if anybody's got any questions, they want to follow up, and if you could, before we get to that, just when do you think we're actually going to be rolling out and people are going to see the difference with the CCA here in Clarkstown and the other 5 communities?
After their meter read date in November. So it's probably next week. thousands of people, wonderfully, will see a letter in their mailboxes from the mayors and supervisors of the partnership towns and villages, and that launches the program. And we'll be doing public outreach events to let people ask questions about it if they want to contact us. The simplest thing to remember is our partnership. The name of our partnership is Rockland Community Power. So rocklandcommunitypower.com is the partnership website, and you could reach us that way. There's a form. You can contact us by email. You can contact us by phone at 845-859-9099. And we're happy to help out, answer questions, and explain the differences between these programs.
Great. Well, Jeff, I'm delighted to have you on the show, and thank you again. This is the second time you've been on. You were talking about the program, and then unfortunately COVID hit, and so literally you were like, I think, two of our last three shows. So with some significant downtime, but I really thank you for being a great guest, but more importantly, your efforts here, because we're doing something good for the environment, and we are helping save people money, and so it's a win-win across the board, and that wouldn't have happened unless we really worked closely. I know you with my staff, and thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much.
Great. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned for our next guest, Howard Hellman from our Business and Economic Development Committee. We'll be right back.